Okay, so Jase, how's your summer been? What have you been doing?
Weather-wise, it's been all right. Sporting-wise, it's been all right-ish. We're now obviously now into the Olympics, so that's currently underway. But yeah, it's been a sporty summer, really.
So, what about the Euros? What did you think about the Euros?
I thought it was a really good tournament. Obviously, it would have been better with better crowds, bigger crowds. But obviously, with the COVID protocols and everything, couldn't be helped, I guess. The crowds seemed to get bigger as the tournament went on. Same old with some of the English fans, I'm afraid. Well, I don't even want to call them fans, because for me they're not fans. But you know me and what I think about that. But I think on the whole, I think it was a really good tournament.
Yeah, on the sporting side of things, I feel the English teams, or the British teams, as you could say so, in Olympic terms as well, they've been getting better. So,
yeah,
seen it in both men's and the women's football. So, I feel our team sports, they're getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of that is to do with investment money. I guess. I don't want to get into politics too much, but obviously, grassroots sports took a massive hit. Over the last sort of, maybe even up to 30 years, I guess. But there's a lot of self-funding goes on. There's a lot of crowdfunding goes on, all that kind of stuff. And I think it's reflected. I think now, because you've got a lot of. I see maybe it's because I'm getting older. I don't know, but I see that all of our successful sports men and women these days are really young. Whereas when we were younger, excuse me, when we were younger, it seemed like our sports stars were sort of like in their late 20s, early 30s that were doing well. So I don't know whether that's got anything to do with it, but I'm probably talking nonsense. But at the end of the day, I think the grassroots is certainly getting more funding now, definitely.
So maybe not so in the football, but in the Olympics, it seems to me we might be better, getting more medals. Our teams might be stronger, but my sense in the Olympics is some of the people are more elitist from maybe public schools, private schools than state schools. But I don't think that's true in the football.
No, I think it's true in a lot of the sports in the Olympics. Yeah. Obviously equestrian. You've got to have a sort of fairly financial background to even take part in that to start with.
Yeah.
And things like sailing and yachting and all that kind of stuff. Even cycling. You've got to have a good amount of money, really. But one thing I noticed yesterday with the BMXers, I think the young lad from East London had to do a crowdfunding thing in order to pay for his ticket to get to Japan. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's there winning a silver medal or whatever it was.
Well, obviously that option wasn't available before the internet, or even with the internet 10, 15 years ago. So that's one good thing about the internet.
But when you think, if you look at it like that and you think, well, it's wrong that they've got to fund themselves to get there, because now that because he's got a silver medal and the girl's got a gold, that the British Olympic Committee, whatever, will be doing what they can to fund BMXers next time and that kind of stuff. Whereas they shouldn't be that way around. I don't think you should be able to finance yourself, do well, and then all of a sudden you get some backing. They should be gambling on these people to start with. I mean, I think they've invested something like 2 billion in the rowing since 2012, I think. I read the other day. I might be wrong on that figure. But they've had their worst showing in the water for 6 Olympics or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be a cycle, or they just maybe invested the money poorly. I'm not sure. So I think it's performance related, isn't it? So
yeah, it is. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know what your TV coverage is like in Japan. I would imagine it's pretty good, obviously, with being a home nation.
Well,
But
yeah, I mean, I haven't seen many of the British performances, to be honest. I saw the mixed relay in the swimming, but
yeah,
we get a lot of the Japanese winning or medal performances. So
as you'd expect. I mean, when it was here, when the Olympics was here, all we saw was Brits all the time, and
yeah,
you get that. And I actually, in the Rio Olympics, I was in Spain at the time, and all the Spanish TV was all about the Spanish athletes. And to be fair, there weren't a lot of very good ones, so they would keep repeating. They would keep repeating the same ones over and over again. Like,
similar. I was in France and Italy, so you realise that the jingoistic average isn't just restricted to our country.
But here, the BBC, it's embarrassing, mate. It really is embarrassing. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there with the jingoistic stuff. I mean, that even the presentations, you've got Claire Balding and Alex Scott basically there, and they've got Michael. Who's the guy?
Michael
the guy with the gold boots. Was it Johnson? Was it Michael Johnson?
200, 400 meter sprinter.
Yeah, so they've got him. They have him every Olympics as a pundit.
Yeah.
And whenever a Brit does well in anything and there's no American to be seen, they're just on him like a pack of wolves straight away, and it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And the other thing they're doing, as what I can see, is they're really disrespecting the Japanese language quite a bit. I mean, obviously the Japanese language has got a lot of culture and all the a lot of history and all the rest of it. And I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think if the coverage was the other way around, if it was in Japan, I don't think they would be disrespecting, the British. Well, not that there is anything to respect about the British language, really, but you know what I'm saying. What they're doing is that they've got this thing. I'm trying to remember what it is. Oh yeah, the BBC in their true style, they try and be funny at times, and they fail miserably. And they've got this little segment at the end of each highlight show. And instead of it being konnichiwa, I don't know if I said that right, but instead of it being that, right, they've got a segment which is konnichi-na, right? So it's like all the things you wouldn't do, and they called it konnichi-na. I mean, it's like, really, what are you doing? What are you doing, BBC? What are you doing that for?
Yeah, I obviously don't get to see. There are ways of seeing televised coverage, but most of what my exposure to the BBC is through their texting, and just through the language that they use. You can tell they are using the same techniques as just other mainstream media.
Yeah, I think it stands for Be British and Conservative. I think that's what it stands for.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that I don't want to go into the politics.
No.
Not too. Well, I do actually, but not too much. But their coverage really is a disgrace. Yeah. Anyway, Getting back to the Euros, what did you think of the England team's performance, and did you see any other teams that you thought played some good football?
Well, I know it's easy to say in retrospect, but after the first round of games, I actually tipped Italy to win it, the whole thing. And I even stood by that when the final was set. I thought that I think I put it online somewhere that I thought that Italy would win on penalties, but after a 0-0 draw rather than a 1-1 draw. But I thought England, I think at times they played above themselves, and at times they played below themselves. Certainly in the Scotland game, they definitely played below themselves. But then, when you play Scotland, you kind of expect that. It's a bit of a great leveler, really, because they all play similar style, and similar, obviously in the similar league and all that, in the same league most of the time.
I felt bad about Man City against Chelsea in the Champions League final. I wanted them to play Real Madrid because they're like derby games.
Yeah.
So, I remember Scotland 96 was similar. Yeah. England won the game, but they didn't play particularly well, I remember.
Well, it's the same when England have played Northern Ireland and even the Republic of Ireland in big tournaments.
Yeah,
It's a great leveler. It's a great leveler. I think there's always been a bit of a stigma attached to England, really, in as much as there's this level of expectancy, a level of entitlement also as well. And I think the entitlement probably outweighs the expectancy a little bit.
Yeah, or a bit more than a little bit.
Well, yeah. And I don't think it's justified. I mean, if you look back, I remember growing up as a kid and, England not qualifying for 74, 78. The one in USA, what was that, 94, was it?
Yeah.
They haven't always been there or thereabouts,
No. But
so I think Southgate's done a good job, to be honest.
I think on that front, of course, qualification was much tougher in those days. Only one team qualified. So for the final, so for example, 78, was it Italy knocked us out in the qualifying, and then in 74 was it Poland that knocked us out, and in 78 Italy did a World Cup. I can't remember how far they progressed, but I remember they beat Argentina and better go.
That was the Rossi tournament, wasn't it? 78.
No,
82. Was 82.
Rossi was 82, so 78 they had better go and Causio, I think, up front, and 74 Poland. Did they come third in the 74 World Cup?
Yeah, Lato was top scorer, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah. So actually, I work with a Polish guy, so I sometimes talk about those names. I don't. Was there a Shamak as well? Lato, Shamak, and then 78. Oniek was arriving on the scene. They also had Dana and players like that. Yeah.
Man City, Dana.
Yeah, he went to City. He died in a car crash as well. So he
really? I didn't know that.
Died very young. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so
he was in Escape to Victory as well.
Yeah, that's right. Mike Summerby was in it. So maybe the Man City connection. Was that when he was at City? I can't remember. Mike Summerby was in Escape to Victory as well.
Right. There's a Cheltenham connection there as well with Mike Summerby.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember you saying you met him, didn't you?
He turned up at my stepdad's garage.
Yeah. So of course the English domestic season starting, was it next
couple of weeks?
Well, I think the Premier League starts in a couple of weeks, but the lower leagues are starting next Saturday, I think. But, of course, there are other leagues that they play through the summer and so on. For example, here in Japan, believe it or not, and you've probably seen in the Olympics, it's pretty hot here in the summer. Believe it or not, they actually play. Although it's a long season, they seem to play from about February until November here. But of course, that takes in the summer months. And even, so my wife says to me, that I'm sweating buckets here in May and June. And she says, oh, no, this is not summer yet. The rainy season, or the summer starts after the rainy season. So, so now it's summer. And as I said, you've probably seen that it looks pretty hot. So here in Japan, they actually play through the summer, which I think affects how teams play. So you probably noticed that the Japanese team, they play kind of patiently, and whereas the traditional English game is probably a faster kind of game. But I think also in Ireland, League of Ireland, so they play through the summer now. When I lived there, it was like in England, it was a winter game.
Yeah.
Also, Scotland, they've already started. So they kind of started they played this weekend. So.
Yeah, I think the reason they start so early is because they're always guaranteed to miss a couple of weeks during the winter with the snow.
Right. Okay. I sometimes think whether Scotland might not be better to change to a more summer schedule. So, I mean, of course, that's for them to decide. But especially with the English game to compete with, it might get them more exposure, wouldn't you think, if they considered that?
Yeah. I mean, Scottish football's a strange thing, really. I mean, obviously the Scots are really passionate about it. I'm amazed that more players don't drift out of the English game into the Scottish game. Yeah. To be honest,
I think there are a few English players who play out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few that seem to drop out of the lower leagues and go play up there, and they do really well. But again, that's that whole sort of, is the Premier League ruining everything else? Yeah. Because I think it is up to a point. Yeah. And, it's a bit of a closed shop. I mean, I was talking with my son yesterday about. He said, "Why isn't there not a GB football team for men?" Because we were watching the ladies against, or the women rather, against Australia.
Yeah.
How the hell they lost that game, I don't know. But anyway, that's another story. And I was sort of saying, well, I don't know why they don't say, right, we'll have a GB team made up of players from the lower leagues. So like Championship down.
Yeah, but I think that's a political thing because
it is, yeah.
When I was living in Italy, I had people saying to me, why do you have 4 teams? Basically, so, and it's a historical thing because professional football started in England, and then the first internationals were between England and Scotland. So the first associations, international football, started in the UK.
Yeah.
And it developed from that history. So if there were a GB team, then you'd have guys at the SFA or the FA as well, the Welsh FA and the.
None of them agree with each other because they would never equal splits.
Yeah, they would lose their jobs, they lose their power. So there are all those factors in it. They lose a bit of money as well, So,
but then we could say, I mean, obviously the ethos of the Olympics is about amateur sport. We know it's not amateur anymore. We know it's professional. They've got sponsors and everything else. But we could still submit an amateur GB side. Do you remember when we went to see? I don't know whether you were there actually when we saw the 5 England players for Cheltenham Town playing non-league for the non-league England team.
Did you? Yeah, I don't think I saw England non-league team play. So
right, so I went down to Crawley. I think it was with another mate called Simon. Drove down to Crawley to see the England non-league side against. I think it was Holland actually. It might even have been Italy. I can't remember now. Long way back. And Cheltenham had 5 players playing in the England team, which was great. It was really good to see. I think it was Bookie, Jamie Victory, Chris Banks, Neil Grayson. I can't remember who the other one was. It might have been Lee Howells. Not sure.
Was when they won the conference, basically?
Yeah, it was a year before, I think. Year before that. And then obviously it was great seeing them in the England kit and doing all that. And you think, well, actually, we could have a non-league semi-pro or amateur team in the Olympics, and they would more than do okay.
I think basically I think the English FA or the British FAs, I might be wrong on this, but I think they'd be worried that if they did that, the FIFA or some of the other confederations around the world would argue, well, if they can do it for the Olympics, they can do it for the Euros and the World Cup. So I think there's that fear as well in that. So
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
No, I was just saying, yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, certainly there would be a lot of arguing between the 4 federations, sort of, because obviously England would want the larger bite of the cherry, if you like. I would imagine they would probably say, well, because we're England, that sense of entitlement thing comes in, blah blah blah. We've got better players than you have. We've got a Premier League and all that kind of stuff. And they'd be saying we want at least 8 players or something like that. And then Scotland would be like, well, hang on a minute. We want 8 players as well, which leaves I don't know, if you've got a squad of 22, that leaves 6 players. So what's that? 3 for Wales and 3 for Northern Ireland? No, that ain't going to work, is it? It's, you know what I'm saying? It would never work.
Yeah, just getting back to the non-league team, I do remember. I never saw England non-league team play a game, but or semi-professional team play. But I do remember going back before that time you were talking about that. Peter Shearer, do you remember Peter Shearer? He played for Cheltenham.
I do. Yeah.
I remember, and I think he played with. I think John Murphy signed him, and then he played under Jim Barron, and I don't know why. I was really frustrated about it. He didn't seem to get on with Jim Barron, and he left. But I always thought, and up until that time, he'd been the best Cheltenham player I'd seen. But I remember he played for the semi-professional team, and I remember reading the report, and they said he just bossed the game. Shearer in midfield.
I seem to recall he scored the goal for Bournemouth when we played Bournemouth in the
really?
in the FA Cup. Yeah. Coming back to haunt. How many players that we let go come back and score against us? It's just every week I see it. You know,
he was one of those £15,000 signings that we used to do. Negotiate with Birmingham. He went to Birmingham. I think it was something ridiculous. It wasn't very much. It could have been more. I might be getting it wrong there, and then you'd see Barry Fry at Barnet selling some guy to a league team for 250,000. Do you remember those days?
Not a lot has changed, mate. Not a lot has changed. I mean, when you consider we had Mo Isa, right? Who was scoring for fun.
Yeah,
literally. He was. You talk about Peter Shearer, but Mo Isa is probably the most naturally talented striker I've ever seen Cheltenham have. I mean, we've had some good strikers, you know, but they've always worked hard for their living. Whereas this guy, Mo Isa, it was effortless, totally effortless. And then we sold him. I think Peterborough made a 3 million offer, and Cheltenham turned it down, right? And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Turning that down? And then they sell him for $1 million to Bristol City. Oh, I wonder why that was. You know?
Yeah, that doesn't sound right. That sounds something dodgy, like something dodgy.
Well, you know, you got at the time Gary Johnson was in charge, and his son is in charge of Bristol City, right?
All right.
So they buy Mo Isa for $1 million. He gets about 2 games, right? And then they flog him on to Peterborough for a little bit more than $1 million, right?
No sell-on clause, I bet. Was there a sell-on clause?
And then he's banging the goals in for Peterborough for fun as well, right? Barry Fry, again, rubbing his hands together, probably. You know, and it's like, Cheltenham never learn. They never learn, right? I mean, you look at the players they've sold over the years, right? I think, was it Krista Warren? Something like that. 40 grand, 45 grand, something like that, which was nothing. He went on to do all right for Bournemouth. Brett Angel, I'll tell you what, you know, he was breaking all kinds of records in the lower leagues for everybody other than us, right?
How much did we sell? He went to Burton first, didn't he? We sold him to Burton, didn't we?
So, yeah, and then he played for Wimbledon.
That's right.
Yeah.
But what about Chris Burns? How much did we get anything for Chris Burns when he went to Portsmouth?
About 40 grand. And he ends up playing in an FA Cup semi-final. You know, it's like, I just wonder if there's anybody at Cheltenham Town, I'll probably get lynched for this, but if there's anybody at Cheltenham Town who's got any business acumen whatsoever, you know, it's beyond me. And the amount of players we get in on loan as well, you think, well, just put your checkbook out and get them in full time, like, you know.
Yeah, I don't know about you, you know, even with the Euros, Euros have only been over a few weeks, but I'm already kind of itching for the new season to start. But it seems to me that the summer breaks seem to get shorter and shorter than me. I guess it's also because of the age of the internet and that, and television coverage is much different to when we were younger. But there seems to be sort of all year round. For
me, the season itself, the season seems to last longer. So, like, you're looking at now. I mean, I remember when we were kids, like, you used to get the FA Cup final on May the 7th, and that was the end of the season.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, and then it would start maybe mid-August. I can't remember exactly. But it
Yeah,
seems
mid
to
to
me
late.
that the summers seem to be much longer.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we were younger, you'd have guys who play football in the winter and then cricket in the summer. Jim Coombs, Chris Balderstone. I
Ian
think,
Botham.
yeah, Ian Botham, Steve Ogrizovic. Although
Yeah,
I don't think he played first class cricket. I might be wrong now. I think he played for
for
Shropshire.
cricket.
But I don't think that's possible these days.
No,
So
and I remember playing. I remember playing for FC Puma in the Forest of Dean. It was a postponed league fixture. That it seemed like to be like in the middle of summer, because I remember we had to wait for the cricket team to stop playing before we could play, because they were on the same same park or field or whatever.
yeah.
And I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? We have to wait for a cricket team to stop playing. Kind of thing. But yeah, it was. The seasons seem to be a lot shorter, I think. I mean, as now, you get the FA Cup final on like, May the 20th or whatever, and you've still got a couple of league games after that.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, the FA Cup's not the same as it was for a number of reasons. I just don't.
No.
Although,
it's again, money killed it, didn't it? I think.
yeah. I think also our perception of it's changed. In the old days, it'd be more romanticized. We wouldn't see it on TV. I think when you see it on TV these days, the reality hits you. Whereas in the old days, you'd be listening to it on the radio, reading about it, or you just see the scoreline. So.
Well, I mean, they used to make a thing of it. It used to be an all-day thing. You'd get up in the morning on Cup Final day, and there'd be a day of Cup Final.
Yeah.
Program. You get Cup Final pop quiz, Cup Final, it's a knockout, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That would go. It would go on all day, and it would, 3 o'clock would come, and it would always be a 3 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, but that'd be the build up in the week as well. The week in the week leading up to it. But
St. Greavesy on a Friday night saying who's going to win the cup. Yeah.
Also, but to be honest though, the FA Cup is actually starting next weekend. I was looking on the internet. So actually, a lot of people just look at it from the beginning of January, but actually it'll be starting next week. So I remember, going to watch qualifying rounds and being excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
So
the possibility of getting into the first round proper. Do you remember that?
And then being knocked out by Tom Pentry or somebody in a preliminary round or something,
Or Propelling, yeah.
So, but I loved all those games. A lot of fans from the bigger clubs, they look down on that football, but I love top flight football. Don't get me wrong, but I also love the lower stuff as well. So,
well, a little interesting story for you. A friend of mine lives by Marine, as in Marine AFC.
Yeah. What's the name of the guy who played for Cheltenham? Maybe that was another team we signed.
Oh, Chris Camden, was it?
Was he from Marine or was he from one of the? Was he from Runcorn? I think he was from Marine, wasn't he?
Chris Camden. I'm pretty sure it was Chris. Camden.
Marine's a Liverpool team, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because when we were up in Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, we actually drove past the ground. And I said to Sarah, "So that's where Tottenham played in the FA Cup last year," because she was quite interested in that.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a mate of mine who lives up in Crosby, and he was saying that apparently Marine scored in their first qualifying match or something. I don't know. I can't remember the exact details, but in one of their qualifying matches, they scored in something like the 98th or 99th minute, and the ball was nowhere near over the line, right? And the referee was getting so much stick from the Marine fans. He said he just gave it. He just gave it, right? And they went on to play Tottenham, right? So it's things like that, little things like that either make or break your season and stuff like that. But I can just imagine that on a wet Wednesday night in Liverpool, playing some no-mark team, and you've got the referee getting loads of grief, and he says, "Yeah, that's gone in," and it hasn't.
I love the English football pyramid, though. I remember, not when I was very young, but I remember in my teens. A lot of people say how boring, but just when I lived in Worcester, that I lived next to a newsagent. So every Saturday after 5 o'clock, I I'd be checking in at that newsagent, waiting for the pink. I think it was a Sports Argus. So unbelievably, it would be delivered within, I'm sure within an hour of the final whistle.
Yeah.
How could they get a newspaper that thick with reports and scores from the top, the Premier? Well, it wasn't the Premier League at that time; it was the old Division 1, all the way down to like West Midlands combinations and all. Nice to go through all those results, read the reports and everything. So I really love the football pyramid. So anyway, the Charity Shield is next Saturday. So Man City are playing Leicester in that. So will you watch that, or are you not bothered about it?
Well, it's not a televised event for terrestrial television. Never has been. It'll probably be on.
Right, yeah, it was not live. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it'll probably be on Sky. I probably will watch it. Yeah. It's a funny thing, the old Charity Shield, because obviously, I suppose it used to mean a little bit more when the FA Cup meant more, but now the FA Cup doesn't seem to mean much. It's like, well, it's just another friendly, isn't it? Really, it's just a friendly with a bit of silverware, It's good. I mean, it's a good thing because it raises money for the community and all that kind of stuff. But I often wonder whose community gets the benefit of it.
But I mean, if you listen to Pep Guardiola, I don't know whether he really believes it, but I suspect he does. But when you hear him talk about the Community Shield, when we were younger, it was the Charity Shield. He would say, he would treat it as a serious cup, which I personally agree with. So, but he will sometimes refer to it as the Super Cup. The league champions against the FA Cup winners.
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? Really.
I mean, I've heard people like Roy Keane have disparaged it, but I remember, I had an old Observer A to Z pocketbook, of football, and I remember seeing photos and books like that, and I can remember pictures of Bob Paisley with the whole Liverpool squad. They'd have all their trophies lined up on the pitch. They'd have maybe the European Cup, the league trophy, but the Charity Shield. I don't know whether it's still the same now, but it was.
Didn't the famous punch up between Kevin Keegan and Billy Bremner? That was in the Charity Shield, was it not?
It was, yeah. That was in the Charity Shield, and it was a full house at the old Wembley, I'm sure. Maybe 100.
I'm sure Billy Bremner might have been involved in another one as well. I seem to
remember a few more, I'm sure. Yeah, so he was a pretty fiery character, I think.
So, no, it wasn't. It was Franny Lee, wasn't it? Was it Franny Lee against?
Yeah, Franny Lee was involved in one. Was it with
Norman Hunter, wasn't it?
Sorry,
Norman Hunter, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Franny Lee and Norman Hunter.
I think that was a Charity Shield, though, was it? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember, to be honest. But yeah, I was actually reading something about that pretty recently. Yeah.
Yeah. Franny Lee was just swinging away, and Norman Hunter was just stood there at arm's length. It was quite funny.
So,
but I remember the Keegan Bremner.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that as well. And was Barry Davis or David Coleman saying what a disgrace it was? It wasn't, as you say, it wasn't shown live. It was on Match of the Day. They used to have a special Match of the Day.
And Kevin Keegan trying to look hard, puffing his chest out, and it was like, hang on a minute, no.
Yeah. So talking about Billy Bremner, I noticed Terry Cooper died there a few days ago. Paul Mariner a few weeks ago. Also for Cheltenham, Roger Thorndale, he died last year. I saw a few tributes to him on Twitter. So that's one thing, when you notice as you get older, you're seeing more and more people passing away, not just football, but.
Yeah, Paul Mariner. I mean, I remember watching Paul Mariner in the first top flight game I ever saw live. It was Bristol City at Ashton Gate against Ipswich. I think Ipswich won 3-0. Mariner played in that. That must have been about 78, maybe 78, 79. Not sure.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of him on ESPN, so he was a bit of a character. So they were giving a tribute to him the other week.
I remember him scoring in the England-France game in the '82 World Cup.
Yeah, I remember I was living in Ireland at that time, so I was, in those days, especially as there was nothing else to do. So I remember waiting for days and days just for that kickoff time. You'd be, and those are the days of, was CFAX around in '82, Teletext.
Yeah, it was.
Be looking for updates and so on. And I remember Brian Robson scored after about 15 seconds or something.
27 seconds.
The Paul Mariner goal, was that just like there was a bit of a defensive mess up and he just,
it was a tap in.
Looked like a little bit of a shinner. Did he shin it in? I'm not sure.
He did shin it, yeah, he did shin it. But they all count, as my granddad used to say.
That's right. Yeah, I remember the biggest shinner, in my opinion, was the Peter With winner in the European Cup final from the John Robertson pat. It was like the goal was gaping, but he almost missed it. I'm sure he shinned it in.
He did his best, didn't he? He did his best to miss it.
He shinned it in off the post. Anyway, let's get down to the league business. So, as we've just been saying, the Community Shield is next Saturday. I think the lower leagues are probably starting next Saturday, but let's start off with the Premier League, which will be starting the week after next. So, what are your thoughts on how that's going to go?
What, are you talking predictions?
Well, I don't want you to predict anything, any results, but what are your thoughts on how the clubs are standing at the start of the season?
I just think the big four are going to be hard to beat. I think it might end up being a bit of a two-horse race between City and United, to be honest.
You don't fancy Liverpool this season, then?
No, I don't actually. I think they'll be there or thereabouts, but I just don't think they've still not got the depth. I don't think. It only takes, well, as we've seen this year, it only takes a couple of injuries to key players, and then they're going to struggle. And I don't know whether Van Dijk will be the same when he comes back, having a year out. Henderson, I still don't think Henderson's fully fit.
How much longer has James Milner got? Is he still going to contribute, or?
Well, the thing is with Milner, I really rate James Milner because he can play anywhere. And if you're in a crisis, he'll do a job for you. Whether he's got 90 minutes in the tank these days, I'm not sure, but he'll certainly still do a job. And for his age, he works really hard. He's obviously not one of these box to box players, but he certainly is. He's a workhorse, that's for sure.
For me, that part of the team is the most important part, because without the engine room, Mane and Salah and Firmino, they wouldn't have had the opportunities to do the damage that they did without what was behind that.
Yeah.
And Wijnaldum's gone, hasn't he? Has he gone to Barcelona?
Yeah. Disappointing, really, with some of the stuff that he said since he's gone. But
oh, really?
Yeah, it was all sort of nicey leading up to his move, and then the minute he gets in the door at Barcelona, he's basically slagging everybody at Liverpool off.
Yeah, I think the new clubs sometimes get their players to say stuff like that. Even you heard a few asides from the Aguero camp when he left City. I don't know how much that came from Sergio Aguero himself, but I think his father said a few things. And, so
it's always disappointing that, really, because there's an old saying my granddad used to come out with, which was you don't bite the hand that feeds you. Sometimes you never know whether you're going to have to go back, kind of thing.
That's right. But,
and there's talk of Coutinho going back to Liverpool.
Yeah. I think as well, on the other side of the coin, it often shows that even what you see on the surface is not necessarily what's going on behind the scenes. I think that's true a lot of clubs. So,
yeah, I'm disappointed they've let Origi go, because I know he wasn't getting games, but he was always a good player to bring on.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says, every club needs a super sub.
Yeah, David Fairclough, I remember from years ago. So
I remember David Fairclough. Yeah.
I think
I remember he had a start in a League Cup final with a number 9 shirt on, and he had an absolute nightmare of a game. And you're thinking, why don't you just bring him on as a sub? You know.
Yeah, I think it's 70. Was it 78? It was.
St. Etienne.
I know he's talking about domestically. I was thinking domestically. So, how many did he get in the Saint Etienne game? Was it?
I think he came on and got 2. I think in that game.
Was that a 4-3er or a 3-2er or
something like that? It was almost. It just felt like the crowd was sucking the ball into the net. You know, one of those sports night specials.
What, Harry Carpenter? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I forget. I lost track of what I was going to say there. Yeah, I think in '78 as well. Penultimate game of the season. Was it penultimate game of the season? City and Liverpool were neck and neck for the league title. City were leading at Main Road, midweek game before the final Saturday, and Dave Watson, not the Everton Dave Watson, the real Dave Watson.
Mr. Forehead.
He scored. I remember he scored a fantastic header. I can't remember against who, but he slipped and Fairclough got the equaliser, which was the I think decided the title ultimately.
Never smiled, did he, Dave Watson? Never smiled.
I think he's his health is not so good at the moment.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm not convinced that Liverpool won't be in the mix at the end of the season. You know, Klopp's obviously done an amazing job, but as you're saying, there seem to be a few things happening there that I'm not sure they'll be able to overcome. Also, you know, the heights. Mane, he seemed something happened last season. Mane, yeah. So
he's temperamental, I think. I don't know whether he's a little bit of a misfit, maybe in the dressing room, perhaps.
But you know, as well, you know, Mane and Salah, the heights they reached for a few seasons there. I mean, you think, well, they can't keep that up forever. That's what I was hoping, anyway. You know. So I mean, what they were doing was phenomenal for a few seasons there. So I'm not convinced they can just keep going like that. And they must be getting near to 30 now, are they? Are they?
I think Salah's about 28, 29, isn't he?
So he's still got a few seasons left.
Yeah. So, I mean, when Liverpool lost by a point or whatever it was to City, the year before they won it,
yeah,
I thought Liverpool were a better side that year than when they actually won it.
Yeah,
to be honest. And if it hadn't been for that bloody clearance off the line by John Stones, what was that about? What was that about? That was a goal all day long. I don't care what anybody says.
Well,
you know,
I don't think it was a goal personally.
Well, you wouldn't with your blue hat on.
I don't think it was a goal. I mean, it was just unbelievable. But to be honest,
don't get me started on that ball over the line business. Don't get me started on that.
What a lot of people don't. I thought actually that shouldn't have happened anyway, because did it come back off the post or something? And then was it John Stones himself kicked it in to Edison? They messed it up. So I thought that was kind of indicative of a lot of cities defending. So they seem to have those panic moments where just a bit of calm and they could have kicked it out.
That ball has to be fully over the line bit. Just seems to suit when it suits. Do you know what I mean? You know, if you look at the Aston Villa and Sheffield United game where the ball was actually tucked behind the post and that goal wasn't given, I'm like, hang on a minute.
To be honest, the City one wasn't that obvious. I mean, the City one was closer than that Villa one.
Yeah, but if you're looking at, like, I think it was like something like 10 centimetres or something ridiculous, wasn't it? 10 centimetres of the ball was still over the line, right? Well, that's great, but you watch when Man City take corners, that ball in that bloody quadrant, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but that is true, but it's not only Man City. How many times? And often I see it's not linesman, whatever they call him. So it's stood right there and the ball is not in the quadrant, it's outside it. Or maybe the edge is hanging over it, but it's not in the quadrant.
Well, it doesn't have to be now. It just has to be hanging over the line. That's the thing. And that's the point. That's the point. So what I'm saying is, if it's all right for the quadrant in the corner, why is it not all right for the goal line?
All right. Well, yeah. Personally, I don't think it was a goal myself.
I think it was.
But then, there are so many other decisions where you can, look at as well. I mean,
maybe that's a topic. That's a topic for another episode where we talk about all the different results in history that would be different if there was VAR.
I mean, a lot of them are clear-cut errors. Not some of them, not so much. But there was a goal, for example, in the Euros. Maybe I'm wrong, but I kept hearing about Denmark complaining about the England penalty. So
yeah,
and when I looked at it first, I thought that's not a penalty, and then
it wasn't a penalty.
I didn't think it was a penalty, personally speaking, in real time.
He went down far too easily. I mean, I've had harder kicks on the legs than that in the box and not gone down before.
But then you also look at the coverage. So a lot of television coverage, they don't give you an honest view of what actually happened. They are trying to create debate. So I saw some other angles of it, and I thought, well, that's a penalty because the two Danish guys actually both interfered with him. The one from the right kind of hit him over here, and then
the second one was more of a penalty than the first one, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so, but also, even if that wasn't a penalty, but in the preceding game, I think Denmark, did they play the Czech Republic? They played them in an earlier game. I think it was the game before. Maybe I'm wrong, but the first goal, Denmark, I think the Czech Republic equalized later in the game, but the first goal that Denmark scored, they scored from a header in the corner. Maybe I'm wrong, but when I was looking at it, I don't think it was a corner. The Danish guy,
it wasn't a corner.
Guy hid it out. So
I know exactly what you mean.
It could have been a goal kick, but I don't remember hearing a kerfuffle about that being.
The whole VAR thing. They didn't seem to refer to VAR at times when you think they should have done in the Euros. Whereas if you talk about comparison, somebody said to me on another forum, they said, well, in '66, if there'd been VAR, England wouldn't have had that goal, blah blah blah, because there wasn't VAR in the '66 final. I said, well, from what I saw, there wasn't VAR in the final the other night either, referring to the Italy-England game, because Chiellini, VAR should have sent him off.
Yeah,
that was a sending off all day long.
Yeah, and that's the Jorginho one on
Grealish. Yeah, that's a red card all day long. But you can gripe about it till you're blue in the face. If these things are either given or they're not, right? But I know in my heart of hearts, if that had been like, for example, when it's happened before with like Gaza and Beckham and all the rest of it, they do something a little bit petulant like that, like stamping on somebody, they're off the park, right? And if anybody, if say like Phillips or whatever had stamped on an Italian player, he'd have been off the park. There'd have been no question about it. So it is what it is. And at the end of the day, the boys, they were 3 kicks away from winning the thing. Me personally, I think if Rashford scores, we win the thing.
I think obviously him missing may put the pressure on for Sancho and
absolutely,
Saka.
I agree. Totally agree.
Yeah, getting back to the Premier League. Yeah, for me, you might be right about Liverpool. I think there's still a question mark there. Yeah, I expect City to be strong again this season, especially if they get Grealish and Harry Kane. So you never know whether the rumours are true or not, although it could be that
I don't think Grealish will leave Villa.
You don't? Okay.
Not this season. I think he'll have another season at Villa.
Yeah, well, yeah.
My reason for that, and again, I might get criticised for this, but I think Jack Grealish knows if he plays for Villa, he's a big fish in a little pond. If he goes to City, all of a sudden he's an ordinary player. That's what I think.
Yeah, my feeling is he will go, but I won't believe it until he's signed on the dotted line, similar to Harry Kane. So it could be just the media blowing it up bigger than it is. So there could also be some outs. Obviously, Aguero's left, even though he played under Guardiola. I always felt he wasn't really Guardiola's cup of tea, and although he scored all those goals, he did miss large parts of the season as well. So often at convenient times.
Yeah.
So I think City, you got to think United will be strong this season. What about a dark horse like Leicester having another good season? Brendan Rodgers has done a great job there.
Yeah, yes, and I think obviously he's picked up the reins again after their lull after winning the league. But again, I think, are they one of the top 4, top 5? I don't think so. I think they'll be solid. I think they'll be difficult to beat. I think they're going to be playing in the Euro League as well, aren't they? Because they won the Cup, and I don't think they've got the depth that they need, personally.
Well, there's also this new thing, Euro Conference. What's that? Is that like one step below the Euro League? I mean,
I don't know. They seem to change it on a weekly basis.
Okay.
They've scrapped the away goals rule now as well, haven't they? Which is kind of like, well, why are you even bothering to have home and away legs then? What's the point?
What about teams that have come up then? What about the teams that have gone up?
I think Brentford will do well. Yeah.
Remember when I was back in England, which was between 2006 2008, I went. They don't play at Griffin Park anymore, do they? I went to the old Griffin Park.
Their game there was last year, I think. Yeah.
I remember going there. Was it 2000? I don't think it could have been 6, so it must have been 7 or 8. I think it was 7. And Cheltenham were in League One. Did Cheltenham I think Cheltenham had to win to guarantee survival. Perhaps Brentford were already gone. Maybe they still had a chance to stay. I don't remember. But Cheltenham won there. I think J.J. Milligan maybe scored. Cheltenham won 3-1 or 3-2. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And condemned Brentford to Division 2. I never would have imagined that they would be playing in the Premier League. And not only that, I haven't seen a lot of them, but just reading about them, seen a few clips here and there, and also playing football, sort of beautiful football as well. That is just
really nice.
We've seen it with other clubs. I remember Swansea were the same. Blackpool.
Well, dare I say it? Even I'm going to get hated for saying this, but Swindon Town, when Glenn Hoddle took them up, they were playing some really good football as well.
Yeah, Blackpool as well. They went down. They went up all the way up. So it just shows, get the right people in. It just shows what you can do. I mean, what Brentford have done is absolutely amazing.
Well, Bournemouth as well. I mean, look where Bournemouth went from, and they were. I think they were 90 minutes from going out of the Football League. Bournemouth.
Oh, that was not Cheltenham. I remember Cheltenham beating them as well to help send them down in Division 1. So some amazing turnarounds there. Okay, so that's Premier League. What about Division? Not Division 2, Championship. So,
well, I think it's going to be probably one of the teams that went down. I think that'll probably bounce straight back up. I know it's easy to say, and it's probably a lazy prediction, but I think again, you've got the strength in numbers and all that stuff. So I think Fulham will be probably the one to watch out for.
What do you think about that financial situation where the relegated teams get the parachute payments?
Does that still happen?
It might be getting phased out. I'm not sure, but
I heard they were phasing it out. I don't know whether it's still going on.
All right. So okay, maybe that's ended then.
Well, personally, I've never really been a fan of it because it doesn't give them an awful lot of incentive to stay up.
It seems to me a lot of the teams that go down come back again. So that's why Brentford going up is a breath of fresh air. Yeah,
I agree.
Okay, so maybe we can look at the Championship more as it progresses. So let's go down to the next division. So
well, there we go.
Oh, Division 1. So Cheltenham are in Division 1. So
there's some big teams there. Teams.
Nowadays, Division 1 was the top flight. So I know it's for rebranding purposes and so on. So, but I really hate hearing companies like Sky saying winning their first Premier League title and all that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the old Division 1 is the same as the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Sky invented football in 1992.
Yeah.
So I remember reading, and I don't read it so much these days, but I remember reading the preview for Division 2 last year, and it was really predictable. You know, the traditionally big teams were predicted to do well, and Cheltenham, they hardly gave Cheltenham a thought, you know. And but for people like me who obviously follow Cheltenham, with the knowledge that Michael Duff had taken over the season, well, he'd been there a while, but he'd done a good job in not only securing League Two football, but actually helped the team climb the table. So I thought, for me, Cheltenham, I had a bet on them, believe it or not, to win the title last year. So I was happy to be vindicated. So what are your thoughts on Cheltenham this year? I think they have a better chance of surviving than they did when they were in Division 1. Was it 15 years ago or whatever?
Yeah, you'd like to think so, but they haven't really made any signings as such. They've managed to replace Griffiths in goal with Evans, who they had the previous year when we lost in the playoffs. And I think he's a good keeper, so I think he's all right. They haven't really got anybody else of any note. And again, they had these pre-season friendlies where they were playing people that were doing really well. I mean, apparently there was a guy called Timmy Abrahams, and I had to look twice when I saw in the friendly that T. Abrahams had scored for Cheltenham, and I'm like, that's surely not Tammy Abrahams, right?
Tammy Abrahams got an S. Has he got an S at the end of his name? Tammy Abrahams.
Yeah, it's Timmy Abrahams, yeah. And he did really well in the friendlies, but for whatever reason, we haven't signed him. So I'm thinking, well, what's the point of playing players in friendlies that we're not signing? There's another guy, Crowley, as well.
Not Richard Crowley.
No, I think it's Dan Crowley or something. But apparently he was doing really well in the friendlies, and we were both supposed to be signing him from Alvechurch or somewhere like that. And it's just not happened for whatever reason. And you think, well, there's got to be something not quite right for that to be happening and going on, I think. I mean, yeah, they've done reasonably well in the friendlies. They beat Coventry, they beat Walsall. Beat Walsall yesterday 2-0. But I don't know. I think it's going to be hard, and I think a lot will depend on whether Michael Duff stays or not. Because I know what Cheltenham will do. If he goes, they'll do what they normally do, and they'll go into panic mode, and they'll sign somebody they think's great and actually is a Paul Buckle or a Martin Allen, and then we'll be in nosedive again. The thing about Michael Duff is he's obviously got his methods, and he's a little bit ruthless, I think, as well, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but he seems to have what I would call an unlikely group of players playing out of their skins for each other, which is obviously something that Steve Cottrell did. Cottrell, I suppose, had a bunch of journeymen, really. And obviously, you got the likes of Ben Tozer, who's like the wrong side of 30, but still a good player. But is he going to be doing what he did week in, week out?
Well, I'm not going to know taking a club from the Southern Midland Division to Division 1. I mean, but Steve Cottrell seemed to reach his level there at Division 1. When he got up into the Championship, he didn't seem to be able to, just seemed to be that cut-off point to me.
Yeah.
So, Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Duff stayed, I think potentially he could take us to the Championship. Potentially, not next year, I don't think.
But is there dependency on loan players, though? I mean, I'm watching from afar these days, so I don't have a lot of local knowledge. But it just seems to me that we depend a lot on loan players.
I don't mind loan players if you get them for a season. I don't mind that. I just don't like these loan players that you've got for like 3 or 4 months, and then they don't get a kick, or they have 1 or 2 games or whatever. I don't think it adds anything. I don't think it adds anything to the squad. I don't think it adds anything to the dressing room personally. I certainly don't think it adds anything to the level of commitment to want to go further with the club. I mean, you had some really good loan players last season. You had Callum Wright, you had Griffiths, and you had Finn Azaz, right? Well, Finn Azaz has got signed on by Aston Villa. They've instantly, the day of his signing to Villa, when he's holding his Villa shirt up and all the rest of it, they put him out on a season loan to Newport. Well, it's like, well, why don't you just give him back to us for another season? Why are we not at that negotiating table kind of thing? If he's good enough to be with us to get us up, he's good enough to stay for another year, right? So, and all that kind of thing. If you've got Callum Wright, I don't suppose Callum Wright's going to be playing for anybody, even though he was, a really good player. I don't suppose that Sam Smith, who we had on loan from Reading, I don't suppose he's playing for anybody now. And it's like, well, I don't really see the point. What's the point? Personally, loan players, I've never really been a fan of. Griffiths clearly, for the year that he was with us, he was clearly Cheltenham Town through and through. He wanted to win every game, blah blah blah. I think you saw that from Finn Azaz as well, and the later loan players that came in, possibly not so with Indiana Vasilev. I don't think he was there long enough to really get into it, but I don't know. I think obviously Cheltenham finances are, it's always a big thing, and they're never going to have any big time Charlies, I don't think. To be honest, it's just it's not geared towards that. The whole ethos of the club's not geared towards that. They're not going to take any unnecessary risks. I don't think they've got any business acumen at the board level, to be honest. As I've said previously, when it comes to like big deals, I think they're at their depth, to be honest. I think we'll stay up. I think we'll probably get our best ever league position. I think we'll do better than 17th, to be honest. But I don't see us knocking on the playoff doors. Which is, again, it's about depth. We haven't got that depth.
So a bit of added spice for you because Portsmouth are in the
I know, mate.
Do you get any grief? Will you get any grief about that, or?
Not so much grief. I mean, when the last time we played Portsmouth at Fratton Park, we'd won the previous game against Hartlepool to guarantee safety, and I was absolutely dreading not getting a result in that game. I went back up to Cheltenham to watch it because I was dreading not getting a result because I thought if we've got to do a job against Portsmouth in my backyard, I can't see it happening. To be fair, and believe it or not, I had a bet on Cheltenham losing at Portsmouth 6-0.
Wow. Believe
it or not. So when we scored our goal, when we were 5-0 down, I wasn't too pleased with that. But it was nice. It was nice being at Fratton Park to see them. They had a hell of a day that day because they went from I think it was 3rd or 4th to actually winning the title by beating us and Plymouth losing. So they literally went from 3rd or 4th, whatever it was, to the top of the league by beating us that day.
Was Paul Cook there at that time? Was that?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah, and credit to Cheltenham fans. We stayed behind and celebrated with them, and I think they appreciated that a lot. But I did get a lot of stick when I went into my local pub before the game with my Cheltenham shirt on, in a sea of blue, as you can imagine. They refused to serve me actually.
Oh, wow! So must know a lot of Pompey fans.
Yeah. And they also know that I'm a Cheltenham fan as well. Yeah.
I mean, they've got a big support, haven't they? Portsmouth.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, to be fair, you literally can see the remaining floodlight. They've got one floodlight left from my back garden, so I'm that close. You can hear the crowd, and you open your windows and stuff. I heard them today. They had a friendly. No, not today. Yesterday. They had a friendly yesterday.
Yes, actually, when I was working in Hampshire, one of the managers, he was a Pompey fan. He was always going on about it.
No, they've got a huge following, and it's good to see because it's the heartbeat of the city, really. To be honest, and although I've got no sort of particular fondness or attachment to Portsmouth Football Club, I kind of look out for their results and stuff. But it's nice, when you're going along and you see all the people in their hordes walking from all over the city to go to the ground and stuff. And
I love that. That's why.
yeah, and parking on people's drives and grass verges and wherever you can, kind of thing. I don't mind it. I don't mind it because it's nice and it's good for the city. They get about 18,000 every game. That's a following. Whichever league you're in, that's a following, right?
Yeah, there's that sort of Paul Cook. So I don't know whether his first job, but there's that kind of Sligo Rovers connection again, because he managed. Maybe he joined. Did he join Portsmouth from Sligo? I can't remember, but he was Sligo Rovers manager. Steve Cottrell was Sligo Rovers manager. Laurie Sanchez was Sligo Rovers manager. So,
Cheltenham connections as well. Cottrell, Burns.
Yeah, Steve Cottrell started at managing at Sligo Rovers.
Yeah. I know he did. I know. But
actually, my brother had a Cheltenham scarf on in Sligo, and Steve Cottrell said to him, "Where'd you get that scarf from?"
Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah, and Guy Whittingham as well. Guy Whittingham's a bit of a legend down here. Yeah. I went to school with Guy Whittingham.
Oh yeah, so he's from Cotswolds, isn't he?
Cheltenham. He went to school at Cheltenham when I did. And also Brett Angel as well. Brett Angel played for Portsmouth.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up, let's just have a quick talk about Division 2. Do you know anything about Division 2? So.
Well, yeah, as we've been in it for a while.
So it seems to me that league, and the one below it, it's called the National League now.
Yeah,
known as the Conference, the Alliance, the Gola League. It's had so many different names. So
I'm gonna have a little bit of an outsider on League 2. I'm gonna say Sutton United.
Well, they just come up, Sutton. Why did you say that?
I just think it's their time. I think it's their time. They've come up.
It seems to me those what we call non-league teams, they seem to be able to hold their own much better than they might have done in the past.
Yeah.
So why is that? Is it because it's much more professional?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. You've only got to look at Harrogate. Harrogate came up and you thought they'd be the whipping boys, but actually they weren't. And in fact, their result against Cambridge probably won us the league, to be fair.
I also saw Barrow were there, so they were there last season, I think. So we have fond memories of Barrow. Wow.
Oh dear. I watched all the Cheltenham's games on iFollow last season. Other channels are available. And every time, both times we played Barrow, the same old. Everything above the knee was handball, and like hoofing it like one end of the pitch to the other, and still managing to beat us, playing really horrible football.
Yeah, I hope no Barrow fans are watching this.
Oh well, I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, you got to take it for what it is, and it's been effective for them. They've got success out of it, but it ain't pretty at all.
I don't know whether they still do, but when we went there a few times. We parked the car. I don't know whether the ground was in Cheltenham Road, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
We're like, this is a sign. This is an omen. Yeah, no, it wasn't.
I also remember going to Gander Green Lane, Sutton, and were they called? They were called Sutton something or other, weren't they? It was Sutton United? Were they called
Sutton United?
Sorry?
No, it's just Sutton United. It's always been Sutton United, I think.
I remember going to Gander Green Lane.
Mm.
Did they even have a greyhound track there? I can't remember. So they might have had a greyhound track there. I don't remember.
Don't think so. I know they knocked Coventry out of the FA Cup the year after Coventry won it.
Yeah.
George Curtis died the other day as well, didn't he?
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I think John Sillett, didn't he pass away a while back?
Yeah. They both gone now.
Okay, and then just final word then, National League. Jase, do you have any idea about what's happening down there?
I'm going to stick my neck out and say Bromley for the National League.
Why do you say that? You obviously have more local. You have a bit of local knowledge there, by the sounds of it.
I think Bromley play good football, and they've been knocking on the door for 3 or 4 seasons now. I think they'll either have one of those seasons where they just like blitz it, or they'll drop out of it. It'll be one or the other, you know. They've managed to retain their squad from last year, had a couple of additions. I mean, obviously, you've got to look at the teams that have come down and the teams that have gone up to that league as well, because, you know, fresh faces usually do things quite well in that league. But I think for me, Bromley are the ones to look out for.
Okay. So, okay, I think we can finish there then.
All right, mate.
Okay, so have a word with you maybe after next weekend. Do this again.
Yeah, that'll be interesting, mate.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for your sign.
All right, mate.